2,000 years ago, a brutal war between humans and demons plunged the world into chaos. To end this conflict, Demon King Anos Valdegod sacrificed himself so that peace could finally take hold. At present, it is time for the enrollment exam at the prestigious Demon King Academy. Amongst the students is a striking young man with black hair named Anos. On the day of the entrance exam, Anos encounters Misha Necron, a shy girl who's just as embarrassed as he is by the overly enthusiastic cheering from her guardian. They arrive at the academy, only to be targeted by Zeeps Indu, a big shot from the Indu family because clearly he has nothing better to do. Our guy? He just rolls his eyes and ignores him, which makes Zeeps even more furious. Zeeps tries to roast them literally, but Anos snuffs out the flames like it's a birthday candle and makes the demon rethink his life choices. It's like he's playing chess and Zeeps is stuck on checkers. During the practical exam, guess who's fighting Anos? That's right, it's Zeeps again, but this time he came prepared, wearing anti-demonic armor, as if that's going to stop him. Zeeps pulls out a family heirloom sword, Zephrid, and aims to turn Anos into a kebab. But before Zeeps can even come close and strike him, he puts out the sword's flame with a small blow, as if he's blowing out candles on a cake. To make things interesting, he gives himself a handicap and challenges Zeeps that he won't move and yet will still defeat him. Next thing you know, Zeeps starts bleeding because Anos is messing with his heartbeat through magic. Talk about overkill. Still determined, Zeeps insists he'll never surrender unless compelled by magic. Anos, always up for a challenge, agrees not to use any compulsion spells and simply disintegrates Zeeps with a snap of his fingers. Then he revives him, and does it again. And again. Holy shit, this guy is insane. He casually mentions he could keep this up forever thanks to some magical 3-second rule. Zeeps, now thoroughly spooked, kneels down and surrenders. Damn, who is this guy and why is he so powerful? Next up is the magic power assessment. Misha scores a whopping 100 in 246. When it's Anos' turn, in pure Ice-Sky fashion, the crystal ball breaks from his mana, landing him with a big fat 0. Misha, surprised, says she's never seen such power before that destroys the crystal and explains she knows because of her demonic eyes. Then during the aptitude test, students are quizzed about the Demon King of Tyranny, Anos Valdegod. Our protagonist scoffs, finding the questions ridiculously easy. Afterwards, Misha waits for our black-haired guy, who invites her to his place. They teleport using a spell called Gadam, which Misha finds astonishing because it's supposedly ancient magic. At Anos' house, his cheerful parents jump to the conclusion that Misha is his fiancée, leading to a bit of confusion. He plans to clear this up later. They celebrate with mushroom gratin, his favorite dish, to mark his acceptance into the academy. Later, while they're walking outside, a magical arena forms around them, and they encounter Leo Gindu, the older brother of Zeeps. Leo promptly kills his younger brother for being a weakling. Damn, that's one cold-hearted guy. Leog and his crew then try casting some powerful spells, but their magic spirals out of control and they explode. Leog survives and prepares a risky spell, Durast, only to find Anos still standing, unscathed. This completely shocks Leog. Just then, Anos reveals a very shocking fact. Origin magic doesn't affect the origin itself. In other words, spells don't affect the guy who made them. What is that supposed to mean? Huh. Feeling unusually generous, he gives Leog a chance for risking his life with the spell. He revives Zeeps with a spell that turns the dead into zombies. Anos challenges Leog to prove their brotherly bond by calling out Zeeps' name, but Leog fails and is killed. He revives both brothers, critiques the weak sibling bonds of today, and blows up the arena. As the Indu brothers wonder who this powerful figure really is, he finally drops the bombshell. He is none other than the Demon King of Tyranny, Anos Valdegod, their founder. 2,000 years ago, in the mythical age, a gathering took place at the formidable demon castle Delsgate where Anos proposes the ultimate sacrifice, his own life. Hence, everyone gathered cast a spell and hero Kenan, the dark blonde-haired guy, stabs Anos with his holy sword, turning him into a massive ball of magic power. In his final moments, Anos promises Kenan they'll be good friends if they ever meet again. This is followed by a massive explosion, and the world splits into 4 parts, leaving behind a tale that would echo through the ages. 2,000 years later, reincarnated as a baby, he makes his grand entrance by announcing his name before anyone's even had a chance to change his diaper. Over at the Demon King Academy, Misha casually mentions that no one's ever flunked the aptitude test. Anos, sure he aced all the questions about himself, is baffled. Using his mind-reading powers, he finds out the founder's name is Ovo. As Misha keeps talking, a girl saunters by and sneers at Anno's badge, adding to the weirdness. The bell rings, and homeroom teacher Emilia Luduel starts the class, looking for team leaders who can cast Jais. Annos volunteers, but there's a catch. White uniformed students can't be leaders. Never one to back down, Annos challenges Emilia. If he proves hybrids aren't inferior to purebloods, he leads. If not, he drops out. Then, he shows off by redrawing the Jai's magic circle, making it twice as powerful, leaving Emilia and the class speechless. Guess you should never judge a book by its cover. Next, the team leaders introduce themselves. The sassy girl from earlier, she's Sasha Necron, the Witch of Destruction. Misha spills that Sasha's her older sister. Annos then dramatically reveals himself as Annos Voldegode, the true demon king of tyranny, and calls out the fake name they've been using. No one's really buying Annos's "I'm the real deal" speech. They label him as a misfit, and so the class splits into groups, and only Misha joins Annos because, well, they're friends. Sasha isn't done causing trouble. She takes a cheap shot at Misha, calling her a defective little junk doll, hitting way below the belt. Annos casually points out her flawed understanding of magical dolls. Sasha, now seriously annoyed, unleashes her demonic eyes of destruction, but they don't even faze Annos. He coolly counters with his own magic eyes, leaving her absolutely flabbergasted. In a bid to bring the sisters closer, he invites Sasha to join his team. She storms off in a huff, declaring she never saw Misha as her sister. Seriously, what's with the people in this anime and their sibling issues? Later, as Misha and Annos leave school, they bump into Sasha. They make a deal. If Annos' team wins the upcoming battle, Sasha joins them. If not, Annos becomes hers. A week later, the much-anticipated duel finally arrives. As expected, Annos demonstrates his mind-blowing power, proving once again that he's the MC of this story. Annos effortlessly twirls Team Sasha's castle, a structure built by an enormous force on his index finger like it's a toy. Seriously, how much power does this guy have? Sasha and her team are left utterly gobsmacked, having never imagined their meticulously constructed fortress could be treated like a mere ragdoll. Undeterred, Team Sasha throws everything they've got at him, using Jew Graze, confident that Annos can't possibly top it. But to their astonishment, Annos counters with a spell called Grega. Sasha is left reeling, unable to believe he could wield such a powerful spell. With the battle decisively won, Sasha reluctantly joins Annos' team. However, Annos explains he didn't just want her on the team for Misha's sake, but also because he genuinely finds Sasha's demonic eyes beautiful and filled with immense magic power. To celebrate, Annos invites the sisters to his home for dinner. Later, as he walks them back, both sisters hold hands, indicating they've probably made up. Just before parting ways, Sasha surprises Annos with a kiss, adding a dramatic and unexpected twist to the end of the day. On the way home, Misha and Sasha talk about their feelings for Annos. Sasha, with a blush barely hidden, denies having feelings for him, but admits she's impressed he can look her straight in the eyes without being obliterated by her magic eyes of destruction. She gets all nostalgic, recalling how Misha could always look her in the eye. Feeling a pang of guilt, Sasha apologizes to Misha, who forgives her with a smile. The next day at the academy, Annos, Sasha, and Misha sit together as a newly formed team. Sasha drops the news that her former teammates want to join Annos' team too, who refuses, saying the three of them are more than enough. Sasha, however, insists, pointing out a minor detail Annos overlooked. They need at least 7 members to participate in any class competitions. Their teacher then announces that one of the 7 elder demon emperors, Ivis Necron, created by Annos from his own blood, would be giving a special lecture on magic. These demon emperors, it turns out, founded the academy and serve as its deans. Annos figures if anyone would remember him, it'd be this guy. As the skeletal mage walks in, Annos casually greets him like an old buddy, not a fearsome dean. To his disappointment, Ivis reveals he's lost his memories from 2,000 years ago. So what does Annos do? He strolls right up to Ivis and casts a spell to jog his memory. The entire class is left slack-jawed, wondering how Annos has the guts to waltz up to the scary-looking dean and do that. Then, as if nothing happened, he nonchalantly returns to his seat. After class, Annos chats with Ivis, letting him know that someone has been messing with history, making everyone believe the Demon King is Avo Stilhevia instead of him. Ivis, unsure of whom to trust, decides to stay neutral for now. For the next exam, which is the dungeon exam, students are told to collect magic items from a dungeon. Anos, of course, decides to go big or go home. He aims for the dungeon's lowest level to snag a scepter for a perfect score. Knowing all the shortcuts since the exam took place at his castle, he gets there in record time. After grabbing the scepter, he offers Misha the Phoenix robe, one of his personal items, as a birthday gift for Sasha. Talk about brownie points. Misha gives the robe to Sasha, who tries it on, and Misha states that this is the happiest day of her life. Then things get wild. Out of nowhere, Sasha stabs Misha, declaring she was never their ally and had just been waiting to betray them. She warns Anos that if he tries to touch her, the knife will push deeper into Misha. But Anos, being the unflappable demon king he is, catches Sasha mid-flight and coolly reveals that he healed Misha the moment he entered the room, leaving an illusion behind. Classic Anos. Anos confronts Sasha, pointing out that if she truly hated Misha, her magic eyes of destruction would have kicked in. They didn't, so she's clearly lying. At Misha's request, Anos lets Sasha go, and she bolts with the robe and scepter. Then Misha drops a bombshell. She'll disappear when she turns 15, and the Misha Anos knows doesn't actually exist in this world. Now that's a mind-bending twist. Misha reveals that when Sasha was just a little fetus, Ivis decided to play God and split her into 2 babies, planning for them to fuse back into one super-powered demon when they turned 15. Misha gets teary-eyed as she explains to Anos that she doesn't really exist. She had just accepted her sad fate and thanks Anos, saying he was the only person who ever talked to her when everyone else ignored her. Anos, never one to shy away from a heartfelt moment, pulls her into a hug and makes her promise to believe there will be a tomorrow until her final moment. They catch up to Sasha, who reveals all her cruel behavior towards Misha was part of a plan to save her. She even created a spell to let Misha live while she herself would disappear. But here's the kicker. For the spell to work, Misha has to reject her, and that's why Sasha always treated her like crap. However, Misha, being the stubborn sweetheart she is, refuses to comply, so they sit there, tearfully waiting for Misha to vanish. Anos, not one to let things end on a tragic note, reveals a loophole. He can send them back in time to fuse their half-sources with those of their unborn fetus selves. This way, they'll be reborn with complete sources as true twin sisters. Time travel and magic, gotta love it. Just as things start to look up, Ivis suddenly crashes through the roof and stabs Anos, revealing his plan to use the fused body to host the true reincarnated Demon King. But Anos, being the badass he is, shrugs off the injury, grabs the demon sword, and hurls it at Ivis, incapacitating him. He then activates Revive to send Sasha and Misha back in time, only to be blocked by Hugo La Rabiaz, the guardian god of time. Things go from bad to worse when Ivis and Hugo fuse and kill Anos. Yeah, they freaking kill him. But Anos, refusing to stay dead, resurrects and reveals he's got enough power to even defy a god. Stronger than time itself, he manages to stop the god from freezing him. Anos tells the sisters that if they follow him, he'll take care of any troubles that come their way. They both vow to believe in him and pledge their loyalty, and with that commitment, they're saved. He then successfully sends the twins to the past to fuse with their unborn selves and summons Venestanoa, the magic sword of destruction that annihilates everything, to obliterate Ivis. After the dust settles, Anos resurrects Ivis and discovers he's fused with a third, unknown source. Returning all of Ivis's original memories, Anos pieces together that someone loyal to Avos Dilhevia has been pulling the strings. He tells Ivis to investigate, starting with the other 7 demon emperors. Meanwhile, Sasha and Misha return, now true sisters with separate sources, and everything seems right with the world. Despite all the epic drama and saving the day, Anos nonchalantly decides to go back and return his scepter to get a perfect score on the exam. Because why not finish with a perfect score after all that? Classic Anos. With the chaos finally settled, Anos realizes this is the world he always wished he'd created. As a final touch, he gifts Misha the ring she had been eyeing as a birthday present. Because even after all the drama, he's still got a soft spot for the little things. 2,000 years ago, Anos and a guy named Shin Regloa took on the great water spirit, Lingyan. Anos bets Shin that if he can take out the water spirit with a single blow, he'll grant him any wish he wants. Shin nails it, and his wish? To be resurrected. But here's the catch, he'd have to start from scratch and lose all his memories due to a lack of source magic. In comparison, Anos states how good source magic is for hero Canon, who continues to return time and time again. Meanwhile, back in the present, Emilia drops a bombshell. a royal student famous for his sword skills, is transferring to the academy. In a sneaky move, she tries to mess with Anos's dungeon exam score by claiming the scepter was stolen, dragging their score from a perfect 100 to a dismal 70. Anos, however, flips the script by locating the missing scepter taken by a classmate, which is basically a middle finger to her sabotage attempt. Misa Ilirogu, a classmate, steps up to defend Anos, pointing out that Emilia would have handled things differently if Anos was a royal. Emilia, unfazed, reminds everyone that Unitarian campaigns are strictly off-limits on campus. After class, Misa fills Anos in on the Unitarians, who are all about creating a fair society where royals can't just steamroll over hybrids. Anos is intrigued to find out that Melhaze Borin, another Elder Demon Emperor, is also a Unitarian. Misa explains that the Unitarians think Anos is the Demon King of Tyranny and nudges Misha and Sasha to join them since they're on the same page. She takes them to what she dubs the headquarters of the Anos fan club. As soon as they walk in, the place erupts with fangirling, and every girl there turns into a blushing mess. Wait a minute, where are all the guys? Misa reveals that her dad was a royal, but she never met him because the fact that a royal has a hybrid daughter is a huge no-no. Despite that, he managed to send her half a demon sword on her 10th birthday, symbolizing that it would become whole when royals and hybrids could finally come together. Anos, impressed, decides to let Misa and her Unitarian crew join his team if they can prove they're not just about fangirling and actually have some skills. Meanwhile, the academy kicks off demon sword lessons. It's a simple concept: if the competitors can pull the swords from the ground, then they get to train with these two guys, namely Gaios Anzum and Idol Anzio. Turns out Anos and the transfer student, Ray Gransdori, are the only ones strong enough to pull the demon swords. Ray, disregarding his royal status and Emilia's protests to become the team leader, asks to join Anos's team. In order to prove himself worthy though, Anos tells him to team up with Misa and the girls in order to take him on. The next day, it's fuel time. This time Misha and Sasha work together for Anos and create a far stronger magic as they go toe-to-toe with Misa and the rest of Ray's team. But their opponents didn't come to play. They launch a spell called Gyneth, which manipulates objects and summons massive, moving castle-like troops. But determined as ever, Misha and Sasha use the Necron's secret technique, fusing their powers and wiping out the opposing forces. Turns out siblings can get along when they're blasting things together. Meanwhile, our hero faces off against Ray, using nothing but a twig he found. Yeah, a twig. It's like showing up to a gunfight with a toothpick. Except this is a sword fight. Ray proves to be a formidable opponent, which excites Anos. It's been ages since anyone challenged him like this. Even with a twig in hand, Anos manages to beat Ray. After the fight, they chat and realize this might not be the first time they've crossed swords. Anos asks Ray if he believes he's the Demon King. Ray, still catching his breath, says he's not sure but wouldn't be surprised, seeing the immense power Anos beholds. With that, Anos welcomes Ray to the team. After the duel, Anos invites Ray and Misa over for dinner along with Sasha and Misha. At the table, Anos officially welcomes Misa to his team, noting her impressive potential as the spell she used in the duel was Lignan's, the Great Spring of Water's signature move. Dinner's a lively affair, with Anos' parents regaling the Necron sisters with the tales of Anos' traumatic birth and the reason they're his #1 fans. Outside, Ray, looking all concerned, checks in with Misa because he's heard that half-spirit, half-demons don't exactly have a long life. But Misa seems to be doing okay, so she may be different from the rest. The next day, Emilia drops some big news. Ray and Anos have been chosen as competitors for the Magic Sword Tournament. Anos is immediately suspicious because he believes that the last thing the royalty would want for him is to win the Magic Sword Tournament. Later, Anos meets Melhaze Borin, one of the 7 Elder Demon Emperors. The moment Melhaze lays eyes on Anos, he drops to his knees, tears welling up, and tells Anos how he's been waiting forever for his resurrection. Despite his memories being wiped, he's still convinced Anos is the Demon King of Tyranny. Classic memory loss, losing your recollections but not your faith, right? Anos asks why he was chosen to compete in the tournament, and Melhaze explains that the royal supremacists are behind it. Since Anos is the beacon of hope for the Unitarians, they're out to crush that hope by taking him down. With that, Melhaze advises Anos to consider dropping out of the tournament. Back at home, Anos is greeted by Misha, who surprises him with his favorite dish, mushroom gratin. Seriously, does this guy eat anything else? To thank Misha for the mushroom gratin, Anos takes her out the next day. They visit her favorite spot, a magic model shop where you can craft and interact with magical constructs. When Misha asks Anos to make a model, he confidently declares it'll be a one-of-a-kind masterpiece. True to his word, his creation is so impressive that the shopkeeper is ready to sell the shop just to keep it. But Anos has other plans. Outside, Anos transforms the model into a ring and gifts it to Misha, who is completely awestruck. Misha, touched by the gesture, tells Anos he's been a great friend and always does so much for her, but she feels she can't repay him since he already seems to have everything. But Anos, ever the kind soul, tells her she has incredible talent in creation magic that could one day surpass his own. He adds that if Misha wants to help him, getting stronger could be a great start. Their next stop is a charming cat cafe, where everything is cute and fluffy until they bump into Ivis, who's undercover as a cat. Ivis spills some major tea. Someone higher up than Melhaze is pulling the strings of the Unitarians' moves. Adding to the tea, Ivis drops another bombshell. There's a mystery person affiliated with Log North Magic Hospital, the top hospital in their city, Dilhade. Unfortunately, he doesn't have more details yet. Intrigued, Misha and Anos decide to check out the hospital, where they conveniently run into Ray, who's there to visit his sick mother. Feeling a bit suspicious, Anos suggests Ivis keep an eye on Ray too. Tournament day rolls around, and Ivis, still rocking his cat disguise, drops more intel. He reveals that Melhaze has nothing to do with today's tournament, but Gaios and Idor of the 7 Elder Demon Emperors are involved. They've likely set a trap for Anos. Plus, Ray's mother is critically ill with spirit disease, a rare condition that didn't exist 2,000 years ago. Damn, things just keep getting more sick literally and figuratively. Anos considers skipping the tournament, but seeing how much his parents believe in him, his mom even came to his academy to cheer him on, he decides to step up. He's ready to face the reigning champ, Krut Ludoel, and prove that even hybrids can become the Demon Lord. Well, he's already the king, but you get it. Walking into the arena confidently with the magic sword his old man forged for him, Anos is all set to take down his opponent. Anos' match with Krut Ludoel is now underway, and our hero is not even breaking a sweat. Easily dodging all of his opponent's strikes, Anos has a small smirk etched on his face which appears to piss off Krut even more. He unleashes an ultra-strong charm which would have reduced anyone else to mere ashes, but our MC swats it away as if it is nothing but a fly. Krut's final words before suffering defeat is that it is impossible for a pureblood like himself to lose to a hybrid right before Anos knocks him out. It's true what they say, pride does come before a fall, except in his case, he fell flat on his face. Back in the changing room, Misa congratulates Anos on his victory, but their happiness is cut short when they catch sight of the television where Ray is celebrating his first victory in the tournament. Apparently, he is fighting for the Royalists, which stupefies both Misa and Anos. Ray enters the room, and he and our MC have a short scuffle through which Anos is able to identify that the Royalists have placed a bind on his source, making him a mere puppet of his former self. Anos is intent upon getting to the bottom of this mystery, but before that he has to meet up with his group of admirers. They all wish him congrats on his victory in perfect unison, and what is funny is that among the blushing girls are his parents, also fanboy-girling over his achievement. Our protagonist hands his sword to his mother with specific instructions of taking great care of it since he would not be allowed to participate in the tournament unless he wields it. His next stop is the hospital where he visits Ray's mother along with Miss A. He is able to sense her spirit disease and deduces that the Royalists must have offered Ray the cure to her sickness in return for his cooperation. Gradually gaining consciousness, his mother reveals that she wishes for Anos to give his all in the final sword fight against her son, so that Ray could finally have a worthy opponent. Our MC then connects Miss A's life energy to the woman's and assures her that he would try to find a cure for her ASAP. Meanwhile, back in the forest, Anos' mother along with the group of girls are stopped by Amelia, a teacher of the school and Krut's sister. Enraged at her brother's defeat, she tries to steal the sword so that Anos would be unable to participate in the tournament. However, the girls form a human barricade in front of Isabella, Anos' mother, and attempt to protect her with their lives. However, Amelia has gone utterly crazy and burns the girls alive with her powerful charms, and just as she is about to attack Isabella, Anos shows up and goes ballistic. He stabs the woman through the heart with his sword and then resurrects her in the form of a hybrid and with the curse that she would have to live this way for the rest of her life. Serves that bitch right. Ray eventually comes back to the hospital where he knocks out Misa and has one final conversation with his mother before she passes away. With his heart shattered into a million pieces, he prepares for the final of the tournament against Anos. The crowd is dominated with a majority of Anos supporters, screaming out loud for their friend's support. A group of smug royalists are also present, but they appear to be on edge. Before the start of the match, both of the competitors are made to wear power bracelets which would control the source of their magic. Anos is informed that his bracelet is draining his magical power, but he does not seem too bothered about this form of cheating. The battle begins, and it is clear that Anos has finally met his match. Rei is as fast as him and is meeting every strike that is thrown at him with a quick counter. The two suddenly halt and Rei suddenly stabs himself with his own sword, thus weakening the bind that the royalists had placed on his source. Although the consequence of this was that he would soon die, he reveals to Anos that he would prefer to fight his friend with his own skills rather than die a hypocrite. Our MC is delighted that his friend is back and vows to give him a battle of a lifetime. The crowd can barely keep track of the fight, such is the speed that the two fighters are battling. However, it is clear that both of them have weakened, and with his final burst of energy, Anos manages to stab Rei, just as the boy cuts off his hand. Suddenly, everything around the two comes to a halt. The owl that was spectating the match flies down to the battleground and transforms into an elderly wizard who Anos recognizes as Melhaze. However, there is something off about the guy as he appears to be hostile and summons two demon emperors to bring down our MC. Anos manages to slay the demon emperors, but Melhaze is a demon king in his own right and teleports to a different dimension. Here, he proceeds to take advantage of Anos' draining power and uses his dark magic to try and defeat our protagonist. Attack after attack is beaten away, and it seems as if Anos would overcome this trial as well. But the situation becomes a bit more complicated when Melhaze summons Rei and his mother as well. Anos now has to protect his friend as well, and for the very first time, we can see the stress on the man's face. May I recommend a massage? This is where Rei manages to step up and together with his mother, who has now transformed into a spirit sword weird. But let's not go there, he slashes at Melhaze's black magic, thus countering it. Anos now has a foothold and uses it to get close to the old magician and remove the bug that has been implanted into his brain. Back to his usual friendly self, Melhaze apologizes for any damage caused by him, and Anos realizes that this must have been another scheme by none other than Avos Dilhevia, who was present at the battleground, but disappeared right before Anos could catch him. With time returning back, our MC is able to resurrect both Rei and his mother, and much to the joy of everyone in the crowd, he is announced as the winner of the tournament. Taking a look back at the past, we see that 2,000 years ago, Anos first confronted the hero Kenon outside the city of Geradite. Having seen the hero's compassion for all beings, he wishes to speak to him about forging some kind of peace. Unfortunately, their exchange is interrupted by Kenon's master, Jirga, who arrives and instantly attacks Anos with palpable rage. After an unreasonably generic monologue, the geezer gets close to Anos only to be struck down in the blink of an eye. After Anos gives Kenon a location to meet and leaves, Jirga curses the Demon King and vows to kill him with his final breaths. Now, in the present, Sasha runs into Anos and Misha after oversleeping and missing their morning meetup. As she bickers one-sidedly with Misha, Rei and Missa join them as well, and they head to class. There, they meet their new homeroom teacher, Mino Historia, who's substituting for the chick that Anos ganked. After introductions, she announces that in 3 weeks' time, their third and first year classes will represent the school at the inter-academy classes to be held at Asian's Hero Academy Arklaniska in the human realm. In relation to that, Mino teaches the students about the magic used by humans, a form that allows several people to empower one chosen fighter. Having copious amounts of experience with the stuff, Anos supplements the lesson with his own info, causing his fan club to cream themselves as usual. After class though, he has to wonder just how little people know about heroes these days. Turning to his friends, he decides to hold a little study session today, though it's really just the most brutal sparring training since Vegeta and Trunks went into the hyperbolic time chamber. Despite how harsh he is on them, his friends take his criticism in stride and get right back up with a determination that makes him happy. Later in the day, Anos meets with Melhaze, who reports to him on Idor and Gaios' condition, as well as speculating on everything that seems off, such as his not being corrupted like his peers. Before the day ends, Anos has one more stop to make. With Rei at his side, he walks into his personal treasure vault, holding dozens of incredible weapons for Rei to choose from. Before long, the young man surprisingly picks the very blade that was once the sword of Anos's closest subordinate. Several days later, on the day of their departure for the Inter-Academy event, Minos informs the students that their first task is to reach the Hero Academy with their own navigation skills. Any who don't make it shall be disqualified right off the bat. As for Anos and his squad, well, they don't even get to discuss how they'll be traveling since Anos just snaps his fingers and teleports them there in a second. Now that they've got tons of spare time to kill, the group split up with Anos and Misha heading out to explore the city and the academy itself. During this time, Anos rizzes Misha all the way up with compliments about her eyes, getting one hell of a reaction out of her. Upon reaching the gates of the academy and passing through, the pair are met by a third-year student there, Eleonore Bianca. After learning that they're here for the inter-school event, she offers to be their guide and take them to the academy library. It's in this massive library that they get to discussing the history of their world in relation to the heroes, and Eleonore claims that the hero Canon was the one to defeat Anos and divide the world into 4 regions 2 millennia ago. Naturally, this angers Misha, who starts going on a rant about how untrue that is. A rant which Anos is quick to silence, if only to keep the peace. Following that, they learn that the flawed history that's taught back home is the same here, with people believing the demon lord is Avos Dilhevia. It's during this discussion that 2 students from the class of reincarnated heroes, Jurga Canon, walk in. Claiming to be reincarnations of one of Canon's sources each, they confront Anos for his claims about their history being false. Anos, being who he is though, completely embarrasses one of them, Laos, and prompts them to back off. Afterwards, as the 2 students of Demon Academy are heading out, Eleonore speaks to Anos about his desire to meet Canon. To Anos' shock, she tells him that he'll never get to do that, even through his supposed reincarnations, because the hero Canon was murdered 2,000 years ago, and by a human no less. A full 10 days after the arrival of Anos and his friends, the rest of Demon Academy's representatives arrive at Aesion, the lot of them being frustrated by Anos getting there first. Inside the academy, Anos is confronted by the third-year student known as Revest, only to brush off his accusation of cheating to get here like it's nothing. Later, the students of both academies are seated together for a demonstration of both their forms of magic. Supervised by their headmaster Diego as well as Mino, the Hero Academy's Ledriano, one of Canon's reincarnations, steps up. The boy demonstrates the Lihid spell, creating an impressive dagger without breaking a sweat. As for the Demon Academy, Revest is chosen, only to fail to cast even a simple spell, much to his frustration. Just as Ledriano starts mocking the Demon Academy, Anos decides it's time to step in. Standing up in his seat, he calls out the human for cheating via the use of a spell blocker applied on Revest. Then, before anyone can react, he casts a spell of his own, transfiguring a captive mouse into a massive beast. Not only that, he even shows up Ledriano by casting a Lihid of his own, one which actually produces a holy sword, shocking the heroes too much to say a word. That night, Anos receives a report from Ibis about the situation in this country. Specifically, there's a prophecy of sorts that has been passed down through the generations of the Hero Academy. One that speaks of the Demon King's reincarnation bringing darkness to Aesion, only to be defeated when the people's prayers summon Canon with the holy sword Avansmana in hand to strike him down. Before that conversation can go into more detail, Sasha and Misha show up to Anos' room and proceed to take him out for a night on the town. While enjoying the ongoing festival in the city center, they see Ray and Missa on what can only be a date. The next morning, Missa finds herself the target of loads of teasing from the Anos fan club, seeing as how Ray gifted her a necklace with some pretty romantic historical significance. Once the groups from both academies arrive at Lake Same, the location of the day's match, Diego takes the chance to belittle Demon Academy and Mino personally. Taking offense to this, Revest insists on shutting that old fart up by winning, convincing Anos to back off and let him participate instead. Unfortunately for the third year, that doesn't go too well for his group. Right off the bat, they can tell something's wrong as none of their team members can cast their spells properly. Revest tries to stay calm and direct them, but the students are picked off one by the Hero Academy students. Up on the surface, Anos shows Mino that the Hero Academy has laced the entire lake with holy water, giving them a major handicap and nullifying demon magic. Eventually, Revest's team has suffered such significant injuries that Anos steps in and retrieves them all from the lake in individual water bubbles. Then, as he lays on the ground, Mino tries to heal Revest, only to find he's been afflicted by a stigma caused by a holy weapon. Of course, that's not enough to stop our op as Hell MC, who rocks up and heals even the stigma, convincing Revest to accept the treatment by telling him to think of Mino's feelings. Afterward, with the first round fully over in a landslide victory for the Hero Academy, they move on to round 2. Before that though, Anos' team confronts the Hero Academy team for their dishonorable actions. When one of the reincarnation, Hein, jokingly taunts them to drain the lake if they mind so much, Anos decides to do just that. Levitating in the middle of the lake, he proceeds to pull a supernova out of his crack like it's just an average Tuesday and chucks it down, instantly boiling away the entire lake. With the playing field leveled, the two sides now face off on even ground, determined to win for their own reasons. As soon as the round begins, each side casts their respective magic circles. On the hero side, the supposed reincarnations of Kenon speak about how they have nothing to fear since they can hear Kenon himself. Because that's not insane at all. For his part, Anos decides to forego any complex tactics and just summons a second supernova before tossing it at the heroes. To his delight, someone actually shows up who can beat the attack away, while the other heroes maintain Digelia, a barrier spell that gives the hero side a major handicap. Knowing that they need to deal with it, Misha suggests that she build a demon castle inside it to negate its effects. Since this undertaking will require 3 whole minutes, Anos sticks with her and teleports them to inside the barrier. After Misha's done setting up their castle, the 3 stooges of the Hero Academy pull up and try to take her down. Anos isn't having any of that though, not even the slightest bit intimidated by the 4th Kenon reincarnation, Zeshia Kenon, the girl who destroyed his supernova earlier. As they entrap Anos in about a dozen anti-barrier chains, he uses the spell Juras to blow them the hell up and send the heroes flying. After landing a fair distance away, the heroes get to fighting, Rouse facing Sasha and Hein facing Ray. Naturally, the students' partners of Anos wipe the floor with them both, with Ray even crushing Hein's spirit by winning the loyalty of the heroes' swords. Back with Anos, he's facing both Zeshia and Ledriano at the same time. When it becomes clear they're not even a threat to Anos, Ledriano activates his Ask spell and gathers power from the people of Geradite. Unfortunately for him, Anos just does the exact same, except his power comes from his glorified cheerleading squad. With the power of his fan club, Anos proceeds to absolutely dog-walk Ledriano and completely trivialize all of Zeshia's attacks, even when she goes for a suicide blast. When that happens, Eleanor connects to Anos telepathically and tells him to meet her at the shrine as only she can stop Zeshia. While he handles the weaklings outside, RMC tells Misha to go on and check out said shrine. Inside, Misha ends up being attacked by none other than Diego, who shows his true colors as a completely hate-filled monster towards demons. As he continues to stab a dying Misha, Anos shows up and bats him away like a fly before healing the girl. What follows can only be described as a torturous interrogation session, where Anos strips away what little humanity Diego has left and makes him suffer over and over again, even turning him into a demon. This reveals that Diego is the one who's been breeding hatred for demons in the academy and controlling them as a voice in their heads. When Diego eventually loses it and tries to force his students to explode and kill every demon in sight, Anos reveals his safety precautions against such a thing and proceeds to end Diego's life via plucking out his source. With Diego taken care of, Anos heads into the depths of the shrine with Misha in his arms. Eventually, they find Eleanor inside a large orb. Confused and intrigued, Anos asks Eleanor who she is, to which she replies that she is simply magic. Eleanor explains to Anos that she is the result of a forbidden spell that turns humans into pure magic, making her a humanoid magic spell. Though he understands the significance of this, Anos wishes to handle the sacrificial spell Diego cast through his students earlier. Eleanor promises to do just that if Anos frees her, and they both hold up their sides of that bargain. Afterwards, Eleanor tells Anos all about the truth behind the Hero Academy. It's all one huge elaborate scheme started by none other than Kenon's master, Jurga, 2,000 years ago. Using her as a source, clones like Zeshia are created as expendable weapons. Moreover, the whole Academy's sole purpose is to perpetuate Jurga's hatred for demons in the future generations. Kenon's opposition to this idea is what prompted Jurga to have him murdered in cold blood. Upon Anos's asking, Eleanor reveals that Jurga's source was turned into 2 spells. One is Ask, while the other is her herself. Acknowledging this, she proceeds to plead with Anos to destroy her so she can no longer be used like this. She doesn't want to create any more clones just for them to suffer. However, in that moment, the Zeshia clones all around them awaken and express their love for their mother, begging Anos to save her. Deciding to do just that, Anos faces off against a fresh Diego clone and his knights when they come barging in. Before anyone can even think to react, 3 of the 7 demon elders suddenly appear: Medoin, Zoro, and Eldora. At their lead is Avos Dilhevia himself, who claims Evansmana for himself and has Diego and co sucked into a black hole. While he's there, Avos and Anos have a brief conversation, though it doesn't last long before Avos flees. Over the next days, news of Evansmana being stolen spreads across the human realm, while down in the demon realm, Avos declares war against the humans. Anos is kept updated on the situation by Melhaze, who along with his other underlings, refuse to do anything but help in the upcoming battle. A sentiment shared by the Necrons, his fan club, and Rei. Knowing they won't back down, Anos declares that they'll move out the next day. That evening, Rei and Missa have a touching moment where the young man essentially proposes to her. The next day, the time for battle has arrived. As his soldiers' friends head out, Anos has but one absolute rule for them: no one is to die today. With that, the Necron sisters confront Dilhade's forces to the west, while Rei and Missa do so in the east, and the fan club handles support. Meanwhile, Anos and the demon elders loyal to him attack Avos Dilhevia's stronghold. Although Melhaze is able to retrieve the elders under Avos, their manipulated sources are missing and Avos is nowhere to be found. Eventually, Anos arrives at an open field where he comes face to face with Avos himself. Or rather, thanks to several factors from before that have come together in his mind, he can identify the false demon king as none other than the hero Kanan's true reincarnation, the one nobody would have expected, Rei Glans Julii himself. As the 2 reincarnated titans face each other, Rei reveals that he used Evansmana's power of shattering fate 2,000 years ago after being betrayed by Jirga. It was because of this that history was slowly rewritten and he was able to create Avos Dilhevia. With this, he intends to be the perfect scapegoat and be slain by humans to finally end the curse of hatred Jirga instilled inside Ask. Anos, seeing that Rei is completely committed to this course of action, instead forces him into a fight by stealing his engagement necklace. As the battle between them begins, Anos quickly starts destroying each of Rei's sources. With a quick Giagrias, the first is burnt to nothing. As Rei lunges at him, a Babez rots away the second. Little by little, Rei is chipped down, all while he ponders on how he doesn't want anything but peace and happiness for Anos. A spell made Tsunami takes out his next source, quickly followed up by a Geo-Graze. Finally, even as he continues to struggle with only one source left, Anos appears behind him and spears the thing through with his arm. Crushing it in his fist, he sends Rei crashing down to the ground below. Even now, however, at the edge of defeat, Rei refuses to back down from Anos' challenge. He won't let the Demon King stop him from his plan. He will bring the peace that they wished for so badly 2,000 years ago. As he starts pushing Anos back with dual wielding, he leaps forward through a spell, his blade aimed right at Anos' source. Despite his actions, Rei never expected what happens next. Anos stays in place, allowing Rei's blade to impale his source. And just like that, he uses a spell to reverse their outfits. As the two float there, Anos declares to the world over a broadcast that the demons are not to seek revenge on humanity till he returns. Meanwhile, he discreetly returns Rei's necklace as the hero withdraws his sword, causing Anos to crumble away with his source shattered. Respecting his wishes, Rei announces that the Demon Lord is dead for all of humanity to hear. For the soldiers, this is enough, and they are prepared to retreat. Diego, however, has different plans. Enraged at what he can see is a ploy, he goes into a savage fit, declaring that all demons must die and ordering all 10,000 Zeshia clones to self-destruct. Right at that moment, Eleonor arrives on the scene and pleads with Diego not to go through with this, but the man is too far gone, completely lost in the hatred inherited from Jirga. In the middle of his manic ranting, all the energy is drained from Diego's body and used in an Ask magic circle. A circle which then morphs into the visage of Jirga himself. Back in the world of the living, Jirga condemns Rei for reincarnating as a demon. As he's ranting about a load of Bologna, Misha and Sasha use the power of their ancestor Ivis to fuse into a single being and launch a counterattack against Jirga. In response, the hate-filled man tries to get the Zeshias to self-destruct, and despite the best efforts of Rei, Misse, Eleonor, and the fused Necron twins to stop this, it seems he has succeeded. But then, right as the light from the Zeshia's explosions is overtaking the world around them, a miracle occurs. Anos stages his triumphant return, nullifying the blasts from the Zeshias and sealing off their magic. As Jirga watches on in disbelief, Anos reveals that even his source being destroyed couldn't prevent resurrection caused by the Agromonth spell. Despite his initial shock, Jirga expresses joy over getting to end Anos himself. To that end, he proceeds to force an ask spell that sucks away the hope and magic from all humanity, granting him the form of a giant golden knight. Anos remains unimpressed by this act and unites with Rei, prepared to end this farce once and for all. As the two work side by side to fight the giant, they slowly get overpowered. Even so, Anos is far from beaten. In response to Jirga's power boost, he activates his own ask, powered by the song of his fan club. As the Song of Unity is heard across the land, the demon and human forces alike unite to honor their ancestors and ensure survival. In a sick twist of fate, Jirga has become the catalyst for the very thing he feared. As he breaks down, Anos and Rei prepare for one final attack. Together, Demon King and Hero stand side by side and fall towards Jirga like heavenly retribution, piercing him and ending the curse of hatred there once and for all. With the battle won and peace brought to the land, our heroes each get their happy endings. Rei and Missa embrace each other lovingly. Anos binds Eleanor to himself so her magic is never abused again and she may raise her Zeshias in peace. The world is healing. The demon army kneels before their rightful leader. And at the end of the day, Anos returns to his loving home, greeted by his parents and embarrassed thoroughly by their assumptions over Eleanor. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and do check out this other very interesting recap appearing on screen.